Hello, I'm Mantastic'c and Fantastic, and today I want to talk about the Demon Slayer collab, which has just gone live in North America. So, due to the fact that this is a rerun, there's a strong likelihood that you've pulled in the past, but thankfully the vast majority of cards have received various buffs or tweaks, or at least weapon assists to give them a little bit more zest and value. Now, for this video, I'm only going to highlight the cards that I feel are a bit more on the valuable side. Everything in this event does at least have a weapon assist, so at the very worst you can convert them into that, but of course not all cards are created equally. And the little helpful image on the right hand side just kind of ranks the cards how I feel are in terms of strength and or value, with the cards at the top being more valuable. So without further ado, let's just jump right into this and just talk about why I think these cards are important. So the first card is Muchiro, and Muchiro is going to become one of the strongest leaders in the game, and unfortunately you need to own 2 copies of your own and New Year's Watatsumi and then pair of a friend, because they form a 3-turn system style active skill where it's a 3-turn cooldown, so you need 3 of them, and they will generate for you 6 bonus combos, and it gives them damage cap increase along with creating exactly 9 water, wood, and heart orbs. So you're guaranteed technically all these orbs for like healing, for VDPing, or just brute force comboing. Whatever you need, you have the orbs available, so your life can become quite easy. And with 5-10 combos and a VDP Awakening, he will do spectacular amounts of damage when you actually make that 3x3 box. And of course, it is strong, but it's incredibly rare to roll, but you can't deny their sheer potential as a leader. They have fixed movement time, so they're immune to movement time debuffs. They solve damage penetration, orb generation. They solve damage output. Watatsumi gives you absorption. So all you really need to do is slot in a cleric and possibly a looping shield, because we're going to assume you're going to take this team into difficult content where everything hits incredibly hard. Now, of course, Muchiro is not exactly that easy to acquire, so that's the main drawback for them overall. The next card I want to talk about is Gyoko, and hopefully I'm saying that right, and I value them for their weapon assist, which is why their little icon on the right hand side has a weapon assist on top of them to kind of indicate that their main value is going to be found in their weapon assist. Generally speaking, once the cards fall out of favor in terms of using them, you're going to most likely just convert everything into weapon assist and enjoy them in that form. But for Gyoko, I'm just going to straight up go right into their pot or vase form, because they have 2 skill boost awakenings, 2 team HP awakenings, and 4 enhanced orbs total. Just that alone is a wonderful spread of awakenings, but the fun does not stop there, because it's a 24-turn cooldown, which means it won't overcharge unless you're trying to make it overcharge, and when it does overcharge, it gives you 4 turns of haste. And 4 turns of haste is invaluable in this day and age, because right now we're starting to see cards like, say, Muchiro, who have incredibly long transformation times, so getting to that 32 turns of skill boost necessary may be a bit challenging. So with this vase, you get 2 skill boosts automatically and 4 turns of haste. That's 6 turns of effective skill boost built right into this one single weapon assist, while giving bulk, while giving orb enhances. It's just spectacularly overtuned for the most part. And other uses for 4 turns of haste is helping you bridge the transformation gaps for multi-step transforming cards. The best example right now is Aggregate, who hopefully most of you ladies and gentlemen were able to pick up when it's available, because they transform initially after 27, then 6 turns, and then they're in their final form, which is when you start actually taking off. But that 6-turn intermediate step is quite painful, and with 4 turns of haste, you can definitely bridge that step with much more ease. And it also opens up possible team building options, because there are relatively few 4-turn haste weapon assists in the game. There's just not many of them, and having a 4-turn haste means you can use a 2-turn haste, which opens up things like, say, using Patty, because Patty requires themselves to transform, and they only give 2 turns of haste upon transformation. The vase plus the 2 gives you 6, which is enough to get your aggregate team going strong. So again, to reiterate, gets your teams transformed safely, adds bulk, adds damage. Spectacular weapon assist overall. I'm so glad I rolled 2, because I'm most likely going to utilize them as weapon assists. And then stepping down from what I feel are like still great cards, but not as magical, are Akaza, who I somehow rolled 3 of, and they contain 0 skill boost, but they still actually have relevant and technically real awakenings in their base form, and their leader skill is still reasonably respectable. The drawback is you're not going to have access to their active skills until they transform, and that takes 25 turns, which will obviously be a bit more of a hindrance when you've got 2 cards on the team not having any skill boosts. But when they do transform, their damage output obviously increases, especially with the yin protection if that's relevant. But their active skills now is a 2-turn cooldown that gives them damage cap increase, so they could hit 21 billion with their 3 different attributes. They also give you a full board unlock and generates 3 at random of all colors plus hearts, so you're guaranteed rainbow board activation every turn with 2 Akazas. So that's important for their system, and they pair of Raffine Kitty, and that tends to be one of the strongest rainbow-based teams available in the game. So obviously great leaders are wonderful, but leaders as a general statement get power crept the fastest. Like Akaza will fall out of favor at some point. Mutro will also fall out of favor at some point, but the Vaz Weapon Assist I feel like will be relevant for a prolonged period of time, much longer than these cards will have staying power. So Weapon Assist, generally speaking, are where I like to invest the most stones in, because I technically at aggregate more options for the Weapon Assist technically will make my life easier, but not trying to devalue his leadership potential. I'll try my best to hopefully be able to play with them at some point. Next card, I want to try and address is Daki. So when they transform, they have 5-10 combos, which seems to be kind of the norm nowadays. Like 4-10 combos is the past, even though that used to be kind of unprecedented. Now it's kind of old, yesterday's news. 5 is where it's at. And with 5-10 combos and the yin protection, they obviously can deal spectacular amounts of damage. Their active skill is unique. It's a 4-turn cooldown, and it gives you 2 turns of damage reduction and increases their damage cap to 7 billion. So again, another 21 billion damage card potentially. Removes orb blocks and changes the whole board to wood, dark, and heart orbs. And they can form a strong leader with the future Bartender Toka, which will hopefully arrive at some point soon. So I'm just kind of mentioning this potential pairing because it is something that can work. Obviously, their active skill doesn't solve orb generation needs because it's a long cooldown. Even with 2 copies, you don't have enough to create a full system unless you like match some combos and save orbs maybe, but maybe you'll find other ways to get around it. They have wonderful leadership potential with 78% damage reduction. It's incredibly bulky. It's relatively easy to play. All they need to do is match wood and dark orbs, and whenever you match exactly 4 connected wood or dark, so that TPA form, you will gain a scaling multiplier. And scaling multipliers are deceptively powerful. Like for instance, the Toy Dragon trio that I managed to roll earlier, they hit damage cap across every card in Super Gravity just because they gain bonus combos with those respective matches. So the damage ramps up, the combo count ramps up, damage output across the whole team tends to be quite high, and at this point in time, yes, lots of damage is kind of the norm, but to a certain extent, you need everything hitting hard to avoid pushing spawns into their possibly large execute ranges. Next card I want to address is Mitsuri Kanjori. So they are a looping shield after they transform. So again, 5-10 combos, so will hit great damage. Natural tape resist, which is nice. They have a 4-turn cooldown, which gives you a single turn of RCV, a single turn of a super spinner with just fire, light, and heart orbs, but it gives you 4 turns of damage reduction. And it's a looping shield, and we know that looping shields are invaluable in harder content because, again, everything hits so incredibly hard, and having a way to like greatly mitigate the incoming damage every single turn will definitely pay off. And because they don't because they are transforming, they can't take like the zesty or 6-slot latent, so you probably are just going to load up on like SDRs or even attribute absorption if you really wanted to, technically, because they are going to match 2 colors for their respective team. And then them alongside with Tengen and Christmas Meredith, they can potentially form like an interesting team because when transformed, Tengen has a 2-turn cooldown, so 2 of them is enough for the system. With Christmas Meredith, you should have auto follow-up attack because their leader skill does not have auto follow-up attack. They have large damage output with 4-10 combos and 4 TPA awakenings. Their damage cap can be potentially maxed out at 15 billion, 5 for each attribute, along with orb unlock, 4 orbs generate at random, and orb enhancement. The orb enhancement is a big deal because it greatly offsets the negative orbs that are starting to pop up more and more often. So it gives you a bit of easing in that case there. And if you have Christmas Meredith, you don't need 2 copies of your own in order to function. But like I mentioned, everything will potentially have weapon assist. Once I'm tired of utilizing him, he can become a great weapon assist for TPA teams because double team HP, double TPA, 3-time extend awakenings will greatly make your matching just much more pleasant overall. Next is Nezuko, and I value Nezuko for their third or their new evolution form because they are a wonderfully strong cleric. And when I say cleric, I mean a card who can clear Awoken skill bind and Unmatchable. And looking at her 5-turn cooldown active skill, it gives you an attack buff and 1 turn of damage absorption cancellation along with that cleric active skill ability. So we got the cleric. We have a little bit of extra damage absorption thrown in. It kind of reminds me of Little Misaka and Beach Planner. Useful cards to have because it's another fallback option if you need absorption solution. But what also sets Nezuko apart from potential other clerics is that she has 410 combos and she can gain the stat boost to get her attack stat to well over 6,000 attack. So 410 combos with 6,000 plus attack will usually result in pretty good damage output for the most part. But the fun doesn't stop there because of 4 enhanced Heart Orb Awakenings. And again, if you take that stat boosting Super Awakening, her RCV becomes quite sizable. So she becomes a healing solution and a damage stick along with a low cooldown that can inherit anything on top of it. Cards like Amaterasu Dragon or older things like Odin Dragon, they are nice clerics for sure, but their active skill is a transforming one, which means they always have to use it upon entering a dungeon. They can't utilize an inherit to bring yourself more haste or more delay. It's only going to be that 2 turns of haste initially for Amaterasu and Odin Dragon. So Nezuko not being a transforming card, not having a transforming active skill is an advantage because you can inherit those high impact weapon assists for turn 1 to get yourself transformed much more safely. Clerics, I feel like, are one of the categories, so to speak, that tend to have a bit more staying power simply because we need these in basically any dungeon we go into. Absorption solutions and clerics tend to have long staying power as well. Next card is a 6-star card who I think is quite strong for a 6-star card. So their weapon, so their Super Awakening can give stat bonus, which is possibly what you want, unless you want double cross in order to get rid of sticky blinds, but most likely stats, so at least there's low base stats at least get boosted a bit more. They have full blind resist, they have a single team HP, and they also have 4 L Awakenings. And L Awakenings are invaluable because you need to have ideally lots in your primary color in either the main or sub attribute, and then from there you are able to match an L and utilize the 6 latent slot assist void recovery latent in order to put back your weapon assists after they've been taken away. So this individual can can clear 4 turns of that debuff, so it's most likely going to put them back with relative ease. The super blind resist is helpful, and they're also a cleric on a 4-turn cooldown. It gives you Awoken skill and Unmatchable clearing along with enhancing all orbs. And again, 4-turn cooldown, kind of like Nezuko, it is easy to inherit over top of, and again, they bring the extra utility of blind and putting back your assists. I think it's a wonderfully strong cleric, especially at the bottom rarity, hence why they have a 6-star on top of them. And then lastly, I feel like Boar Helmet has definitely lost significant favor. I rolled 2 of them last time around, rolled a 3rd this time, and this weapon assist back in the day was one of the most utilized ones. Virtually every team used it because there were hardly any options for a skill boost and double team HP. Now almost everything has it to a certain extent. It's so much more common. But I guess to make it a bit more zesty, they gave it a 7 combo. But then it's kind of like, it's a Mage, but a Mage with 1 less team HP awakening. But the main draw, I guess, that still gives it a bit more value is their active skill being 3 turns of absorption cancellation. Not a bad thing, but maybe I'm just being nostalgic and overvaluing a card that has lost its luster that I relied on significantly before. It's still not a bad thing by any means, but it's nowhere near as great as it used to be. Something like Halloween Paimon is vastly superior, like not even a close contest because they give 3 turns of haste on top of the 3 turns of absorption cancellation. Boar Helmet not quite doing so much, so maybe I'm overvaluing it, maybe I am, maybe I'm not. And then lastly, the final card I want to draw a bit of attention to is Zenitsu, because they do have a weapon assist that does give 4 turns of haste, and as I mentioned with the Vase Pot weapon. Not many things have 4 turns, and it does open up possible team building options. Drawback of this, it's much less universally helpful. It has 1 less team HP, it has 1 less skill boost, and it has a light sub-attribute, which is not going to be that helpful in many teams. You don't necessarily want a sub-attribute color unless it's obviously a light-based team. So less flexible in where you can actually utilize this weapon assist, but at the same time, it does give that 4 turns of haste, which I think is at least worth mentioning, because 4 turns of haste is still relatively rare. I guess another card that maybe I neglected a little bit is, whoops, this individual here. Kano's like weapon assist is pretty strong. 2 skill boosts, 7 team HP, 2 OEs, and dark sub attribute, along with at least absorption cancellation. Maybe it's similar-ish to Boar Helmet, but again, dark sub attribute does cut down on the wide ranges of teams you could potentially use it on. So with that being said, this brings a conclusion to the cards that I feel are more valuable in Demon Slayer. Obviously, there are other cards that bring value, but these are the ones that I feel are going to be utilized the most, at least for myself, if I actually own that card. Now, that being said, let me know what you, lovely ladies and gentlemen, think about all these cards in the comment section down below. Which cards have you found great value in? Do you place value on, say, this guy who I've rolled 10 times somehow with their big instantaneous 5 million button damage to all enemies? Is that enough? Maybe, maybe not, but it's at least an instantaneous button, so maybe it's something useful. But again, let me know what cards you think are valuable in the comment section down below. But regardless of that, hopefully all of you lovely ladies and gentlemen have a truly fantastic day. I wish you best luck in your own pad adventures, and happy puzzling.